Hello, math students. Welcome back to our module on linear equations. This is lesson 14, and it is called Graph of a Linear Equation, Horizontal and Vertical Lines. Our goal for today we will use standard form to learn about horizontal and vertical lines on a graph. The question that I want you to be thinking about during this lesson is, how do you identify a vertical and horizontal line on a graph? Okay, so we're going to talk about what they look like, we're going to talk about how to make them, and we're going to talk about how you can identify them just by deciding a specific thing. So linear equations. Sometimes a linear equation can be completely vertical or horizontal. And so we have to be able to recognize what makes a line vertical or horizontal. And we're going to start off by doing that by graphing ax plus by equals c, where a equals 0, b equals 1, and c equals 1.5. So what that means is we are going to substitute the values that were given into our equation, and then we're going to graph it. And so if you remember, you can graph standard form by converting it into y-intercept form, but let's go ahead and put the values in and see what happens first. So if you notice, it says a equals 0, and b equals 1, and c equals 1.5. So if we substitute those in, we have a times x plus b times y equals c. And so when we plug in a equals 0, then we have 0 times x plus 1 times 1, right? And then equals 1.5. And so when we do that, we have 0 times x would be 0 plus 1 times y equals 1y, and then we have 1.5. And then 0 plus 1y gives you 1y equals 1.5. And then if you're trying to solve for y, you're going to divide both values by 1. And doing so, you would have y equals 1.5. So what that means is that every y value has to be 1.5. It doesn't matter what your x value would be. It means that every y value would be 1.5. So if we look at this, we would say, okay, well, what if x was 0? Then we would still say that the y value is 1.5. If the x value is 1, 1.5. The x value is 2, 1.5, because it says right here that y equals 1.5. So I go up 1.5, and I put a dot, and it doesn't matter what the x value is, because every single time we're going to show that y equals 1.5. And so you get that for every value that you would put in, the y always equals 1.5. Well, when you get done doing that, what is the line that you see? And if you're looking carefully, you will notice that that gives us a horizontal line. And it's all crossing the y values at 1.5. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So now let's try another one and see what happens. And it says now on the same graph, graph ax plus by equals c, where 1 equals a, b equals 0, and c equals negative 2.5 in a different color. Okay, so I can do that. Let's try a different color. So again, we have ax plus by equals c, and it says where a equals 1, so we have 1 times x plus 0 times y equals negative 2.5. Okay, so 1 times x equals x plus 0, because 0 times y equals 0, equals negative 2.5. And then x plus 0 is x equals negative 2.5. So now that's telling us that anytime the x is going to be used, you're going to go to negative 2.5. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the y would be. If the y was 0, then you would go to the left 2.5 times, and you put a dot. If the y was 1, you would go to the left negative 2.5 times. If it was 3, same deal. If it was 4, negative 2.5, 5, negative 2.5, 6, negative 2.5, 7, negative 2.5. Even if it was a negative 1, you would still have negative 2.5, negative 2, still a negative 2.5, negative 3, still a negative 2.5, negative 4, still a negative 2.5, negative 5, still a negative 2.5, 6, negative 6, still a negative 2.5, negative 7, still a negative 2.5. Because it says every single time that the x is a negative 2.5, and when you do that, what do you notice that shows up on our graph? A vertical line, okay? And so what we learned by doing this using the standard form and plugging it in, it said on the one up above that the a value was 0, and then it said on the one down below that the b value was 0. Okay, and by doing that, what it creates is it creates the value of whatever c happens to be. That makes the value of the term that is not being multiplied by 0 exactly equal to c. And so we're able to see that that's how you would build two lines that show only a horizontal slope or a vertical slope. Now, I want to try something else and just see if it works, because we also learned that you can take standard form and you can turn it into slope-intercept form, if you remember that from our lesson before. So we have ax plus by equals c, and we're trying to get the y by itself because that's slope-intercept form, so we're going to subtract ax from both sides, so minus ax over here, and then we're left with by equals negative ax plus c, and then we divide everything by b, everything by b, everything by b. So we're left with y equals negative abx plus cb. Okay, so that's what the formula of slope-intercept form was, and then it says that a is 0. So when you do that, if we write it over here, it would be y equals negative a, so it would be 0 times x divided by b, which happened to be 1, plus c, which is 1.5 divided by 1. So that would give us y equals 0 plus 1.5. Well, y equals 1.5. So again, even if we use slope-intercept form, you're still coming out with the exact same answer of 1.5. And then if we tried it again, changing this standard form into slope-intercept form, so again, you have ax plus by equals c, so we're subtracting ax from both sides. So now we're left with by equals negative ax plus c, divide by b, divide by b, divide by b. So we get y equals negative a divided by b x plus c divided by b, and then put your values in, and this time it said that a was 1, so we would have y equals negative 1 x divided by 0 plus negative 2.5 divided by 0. And so that's how we were able to see that we would get y equals a negative 2.5, okay? And so that also showed that you got this part right here, and so that gives us the, so y, I'm sorry, that would be 0. So y would equal 0. I apologize, I didn't do the math right, because negative 1x divided by 0 is 0, negative 2.5 divided by 0 is 0. So when y equals 0 is right here, the x value is still going to be negative 2.5. And so that's how that proves that that works as well. Okay? So it's kind of cool that it allows us to see that when y equals 0, whatever your x value is what the line is going to be. And so that's how we were able to get negative 2.5. Whereas in this one, where the x value is 0, just like we had up here, then we know x value is 0, so that means this moves nowhere. All of the y's are going to be 1.5. When the y is 0, so that means this guy is not moving, all of the x's are going to be at -2.5. And so that also gives you the answer of knowing it is a vertical line versus a horizontal line. Okay, so let's go back to this one more time. If y equals 0, your answer will always be a vertical line. So let me say that again. If the y is 0, then your answer will always be a vertical line. Okay? If the x is 0, like this one showed that the x was 0, the line will always be horizontal. So we can write that one too. If x equals 0, then you will always have a horizontal line. Horizontal line. Okay, so that's something that's really important to remember. So if the x equals 0, like it did in here, then your line will always be horizontal. And if your y is 0, your answer will always be a vertical line. So your line will always be vertical. Okay, so that's really kind of cool that we can figure that out. And I believe that that's all I have. Yep, so now we just have to practice it with the practice problems. Going back to our goal, today we will use standard form to learn about horizontal and vertical lines on a graph, which is exactly what we just did. How do you identify a vertical line and a horizontal line on the graph? So let's write it one more time. If a line is going to be vertical, then the x or the y value is equal to 0. So to get a vertical line, the y value is 0, and to get a horizontal line, the x value has to equal 0. So if you can somehow get that ingrained in your head, vertical lines mean that the y value is 0, and horizontal lines mean that the x value is 0. That's how you can always remember that. So if your x is 0, your line is going to be horizontal. If your y is 0, your line is going to be vertical. And you can try to get that into your head and remember that for future. Okay? All right, kiddos, that's all I have for you in today's lesson. Talk to you soon. Bye.